Pictures of Punk City by Gypsy Jackknife. This piece is not chapter and verse, probably because Gypsy could no longer count. This is purportedly part of the manuscript described as taken away by the shut-eye train after Gypsy's death, according to Frank Freelinger. Can we trust him? Who knows? My room has a window. A flat picture of trees and a parking lot, and across the highway, a billboard advertising sleeping tablets. There is a bottle with a pale blue label, and it is full of dreamless slumber, the deeps of rest and peace that I have never known. I no longer go outside. They will not let me go out, because I have spells when I cannot remember who or where I am. Several months ago, they tell me, I wandered out of my room and the building. Had it not been for some kind stranger who took me by the hand and brought me back, I might have finished anywhere, well before the Indian summer of sunny sanity I now intermittently enjoy. The good Lord must have been watching over you that day, my nurse has told me since. Why? I asked her. You were somewhere else, she said. You didn't know us, couldn't recognize your room. So, I inquired, growing angry at her brute candor. Don't you see, she asked triumphantly, it's pure dumb luck you got back here at all. How did he know to bring you here? You sure didn't tell him, sweetie. I'm not your sweetie. Leave me alone. He found you down by the river, he said. You were staring up at that dumb sign on the bridge. Trenton makes, the world takes. Of course, who knows, she sniffed. He looked like a backstreet thug. Us minnows stick together, I retorted. But it frightened me that I could not remember enough of what happened to refute her slanders. But that has become the story of my life. Things I cannot change are changing me, day by day, an accelerating loss I cannot reverse. I sit here in my room, writing in longhand. Once I was a calligrapher. I had pens and parchment and paints that imbued my dead characters with life. Now, I can hardly read my own script. The letters stagger across lines of notebook paper like sick and broken soldiers who no longer recall the order of the march. How can they be trusted, this pathetic army of my memories? I was called Gypsy. I was born in Trenton, the half-pint, lame-brained child of parents who failed and fled away. I lived with Lilith, who taught me to endure. And when she died, I moved on to the city of brotherly love, and thence to South Street, where I lived inside a world of passion, pain, and ferocious light. There were momentous events of which I seem to be a witness and a pivot. It may be that all of this is lost already. A song that sang in an empty room, an impossible tree that grew in an imaginary wood. When I read my own words, I can no longer be certain. Each life is a string of possibilities from which we weave the fabric of our days. But what is merely possible does not always come to pass. Have I remembered? Or have I merely dreamed? For it often seems a dream. The days of South Street. The children came like sleepers into a maelstrom, unmindful of the wind and rain that tore at their hair. They moved through it as if their storm were as ordinary as life itself. They had no sense of the fantastical, the wondrous, urgent spinning of their world, which grabbed some of us in passing and dashed our minds to bits. And mine was always dying anyway, bit by rotten bit. No less then than now, when I awake in the grey terror of dawn, awaiting the final antiseptic sun that will burn away the last of me. In a month or 2 or maybe 3, I am resigned to cinder darkness. But not to the betrayal, the colors that yet remain. There must have been a war on South Street after all the soldiers had already died and only children stooped to pick up stones and swords and the banners left behind. They fought like heroes, died like dogs. Impossible. Some things that never happen. But never things some proto-moron minnow dreams. And yet, it must have been. There are too many memories, too rich and ripe with color. I have my rope, which spreads its wings and flies into the rainbow, where all colors begin and end. And there, in the supernal curve of binding light, I behold the truth of time, which does not sleep or die, but shimmers and writhes like a great, vivid serpent, suffocating some, terrifying many, swallowing all. Inside its endless belly, the living and the dying both live on. I still am working on my median, and my friends have never gone away. Stoplight, and the Snake Man, and Angel, and Mr. Magic, and Aurora, and all the many warriors who took up arms in the name of the raptor are still with me now. Behind the torque masks that hid for so long the features of their minds. And I feel like the pain of birth, the slow removal of their masks, which cost them everything in time, but unveiled my vision and steeped it in brilliant light before the clouds at last returned to close my sight. And if I could but recollect that light, just once, I would be content to lay down my pen and crawl into the waiting shroud. But somewhere I have lost the source, the center, and the carousel spins round and round, demanding that I pluck out memories one by one, piece them back together on my own. I have my rope, but it twists through my vision strangely anymore. Today, just now, I know this bloody rag, which contains a memory of the Duke. I feel his granite strength, the chiseled malice of his voice, and here's a swatch of Stoplight's coat before he put away his drink and tracked a nightmare across the asphalt desert of his fears. And my Aurora, dawn of light, her coronation muslin in my ugly little hand, not quite lost, though not quite somehow home. But my rope twists through my vision, and on a misty afternoon or slab-like night I cannot summon recollection from the knots. Whose canvas scrap is this? Whose silver shred? Whose dead blood on this once white scarf? Whose fine black woolen rag is this? And I grope, a distant dwarf, feeling through the fog for slivers of clear light. Whose black woolen